Hi. Hi, this is the Weird Christian, and I'm doing a talk on the connection between theology and reality. This is just a short talk, so with some definitions in it too, so it shouldn't take too long. And so I'm not, if you just take a little listen and see what you have to think. And if you want to add any comments or whatever, that'd be wonderbar. We are all on a journey through this world based on assumptions. We live by Yoda's dogma. There is no why, just do. Some consider asking questions a sin. Questioning a given order makes one a heretic. And that's what I do. That's one of the reasons why I call myself the Weird Christian, because, excuse my nose itchy, I question, and a lot of times I'm called a heretic. Anyway, good questions bring one to the fundamentals. Questioning exposes the core. In Greece, Socrates asked questions and taught others to do so. Therefore, the powerful in society decreed that he was questioning the social order, and, as such, acting seditiously against the establishment. The people who were the establishment justified their declared death sentence for Socrates by having him commit suicide. This has allowed them to not feel as much guilt, though some really took a dislike to Socrates. Today we will ask why. Asking why will bring us to the connection where belief and reality meet. Some will state that they do not believe, they are realists. They only see facts. Because of this, everything they say is true because facts are true. To disagree with them is to argue against the facts. To state this is to not understand what a fact is. Let us look at the definition. Fact. Knowledge or information based on real occurrences. And this is only a part of an example here. So, something demonstrated to exist or known to have existed. A real occurrence, an event. So, I'll just paraphrase these definitions into one statement. A fact is an interpretation using knowledge to understand an event. Okay, that's kind of what it says. So you have to have an interpretation of an event, and you use your knowledge. So you can see that it's not as cut and dry as some people think, like the realist thinks. Knowledge. Knowledge is the state of knowing. Familiarity, awareness, or understanding gained through experience or study. The sum or range of what has been perceived, discovered, or learned. So knowledge is an interpretation based on experience. So the big question is, how does one build their interpretation? They usually build this interpretation on the culture they grew up in. To understand our interpretation of events, we must understand our culture. What is our culture? Some will state we have a post-Christian culture, but these only state where our culture has been, these people, and they do not state where we are, nor does it state what our culture is transforming into. If our culture were Christian, and when you look at the fundamentals and you ask questions, these are questions you kind of wonder, are we really come from a Christian culture? Just stating, if our culture were Christian, currently, educational institutions do not support the culture that established them. You'll find that there's a lot against the Christian culture or the conceived Christian culture that we used to have. And those currently in charge of these institutions, the educational institutions and governmental institutions and so forth, courts and so forth, usually do not present the culture they are using to replace the original culture, though some are vaguely aware of it. Okay. Because, it's there's this guy, these cultures are disguised in languages, and they usually don't come out and say who they are trying to say we are. The deepest the people in institutions will go is to consider the culture we have as a post-Marxist culture, meaning ideas kind of Marxist but post-Marxist. But the ideology of Marxism and socialism, they are built out of the same ideology, though this is arguable. Some people don't think so. Okay. But the ideology of Marxism and socialism historically dates to people before even the ancient Greek society, though ancient Greek was, which a lot of our culture is based on, was, fundamental in establishing these ideas of socialism and Marxism. Let's say Plato and his Plato Republic and other things. There's a lot of different historical ideas. Okay. Some have demonstrated the historical river of thought leading to Marxism. It is a study, which means it's long and laborious and takes time to explain. So I will not attempt to explain it here. A good start to kind of getting the idea of it is go to Tick History, a YouTube channel. The fellow in there has laid it out, and one can follow his resources path in books and so forth to understand the history of Marxism and socialism, where it came from originally, or as far back as recorded knowledge we have. But we will not go into that here. We will make the effort to determine what determines our interpretations of facts in the current understanding. I will make some assumptions. I think they are reasonable, but you may not. Disagreement is the nature of the beast we are tackling. I will present an ancient method for interpreting facts. Facts were interpreted using gods. An example of this is the reason the sun rose in the sky was the sun god. And whatever event or thing that goes on in observational reality would be related to a god. For every event, a god was involved. Understanding nature meant knowing the gods because they were basically the understanding of nature. Our society states that we use reason to understand observations. We state this to mean reason is knowledge above the use of gods. We think the ancients did not use reason because they relied on gods. But they also used reason. The process of reasoning involves using culturally established premises to formulate narratives that explains events. So, depending on your premises, your established premises, you will formulate a narrative. And you will reason using those narratives. So, there's reasoning going on. Okay? What your premises begin with will formulate that narrative. So we use, let's say, science and its premises, and we formulate our narrative. They used gods and their premises, and they formulated their narrative. Both explained the order of things. They're both using reason. Reason is just something used. It doesn't, and both use reason. It depends on the premises you start with. To understand the narratives of the observations, it is necessary to know one's culture and its axioms. Basically, the primal premises. Historically, all cultures used gods to formulate their narratives. I think everybody agrees with that historically, if you look in history. I believe that even today's scientific world still uses gods, but we do not recognize them as gods, or we do not recognize even the part of the gods part. That's basically. We need to understand the purpose of gods so that we can recognize when we're using a god. Gods are used to understand how to relate to the world of the living and dead, the spiritual and the material. The study of gods is called theology. Once we understand the theology of the gods, we can determine the premises we use to create narratives that help us understand the world we live in. So, okay, let's just continue on here. Try to keep following the thoughts. To make this discussion clear, I will present two cases of gods within our current society with opposing theologies and scientific theories and even theories of governance. The theology used in science becomes apparent when discussing things which are beyond observation, observable. That's because then they'll start using their gods more and observing facts less. So then it becomes very apparent which gods they are using or which thinking processes are going on here, what premises they are using. Once one grasps the concepts of the gods, which god you're using, one can find the use of these different gods in other scientific declarations. One, I'm just going to use the most common ones that we have in our society right now, and they've been around for a long time. One is the Gnostic God. This God is infinite in nature and has no beginning or ending. The universe is a form of this God. Because this God is infinite in nature, the God is the universe, or the universe is the God. And the universe is also considered to be infinite, because the God is infinite in nature, infinite in time, infinite in space, infinite, having no beginning or end. However, this God may have, or this universe may have cycles of expansion and contraction. Okay. And you'll see theories of multiverses that derive from the premises of this God. So when you see this kind of thought pattern going on and explaining the origins of the universe, they're using the Gnostic God. So in this Gnostic God, God is everything. All are within this God. Therefore, individuality does not exist. It's very much a social society. You don't have individuality. It's a communist society where all are made the same, basically. There's no agency. All things are fated. So basically, the authority determines what goes on for everything. Okay. This narrative on agency is about governance. Okay. So besides ideas of science, they also have ideas of governance. And this is the part that can cause problems with the established order of things, with people in power not liking what you're saying, in essence. The biblical God, okay, this is another God, defines himself as being at the beginning and at the end of the universe. The universe is limited in its duration. It has a beginning and it does have an end, and the universe is not God. This God created the universe at a starting time for a purpose. And this universe has distinct limits declared for the things within it. So the things within the universe are not immortal. You'll find that with the Gnostic God, everything is immortal. Humans are immortal. They have an immortal soul. They're using the Gnostic God. Now, this biblical God that I'm describing here is against some of the theology that is used in Christianity, who declare that themselves that they believe in a biblical God. Just saying. There's a lot of Gnosticism in the Christianity that we're using. I would say it's not really a biblical Christianity. But that's another story, which can cause a lot of problems in the power structures of the world, and people can get upset. And when that happens, things like what happened to Socrates can happen. Just saying. In governance, the biblical God is limited by words or laws used to create the universe. These words establish the functions and relationships of this God with all things in the universe. The words are the pillars upholding the structure of the universe. So, the word, if you read the first chapter of John, the Gospel of John, you will see how important the word is actually considered God, but it limits God because God does not lie. So this God is about limits, all about limits. It's not about infinity. It's all about limiting things, keeping law and order and structure. The other God is more chaotic God, a Gnostic God. Everything's all mixed up together. Things can be redefined. Words are not important. You use rhetoric and emotion in talking. So there's a lot of dichotomy between these two gods. They're very much different. But they're both in our society at the same time. And some people kind of hold ideologies to both of these gods at the same time. So there's that kind of a schizophrenia in their very theology. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's my little talk about theology and reality. If you have any comments, I would love to hear, and I'll reply to them. I usually have no problem because, anyway, if you've listened to me, that'd be great. Anyway, God bless. May God give you peace, and I hope that